In the year 2473, humanity had long since left Earth's cradle behind. The stars were no longer distant lights in the night sky, but stepping stones across a vast galactic empire. From orbital cities to terraformed moons, humans thrived wherever they dared to reach. Technology had advanced beyond imagination. Quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and interstellar travel were now as common as electricity once was. Yet for all their progress, one frontier remained unconquered: time. Time travel had always been the ultimate dream, the power to undo mistakes, prevent tragedies, or witness history firsthand. It was the holy grail of science, whispered about in academic halls and dismissed by pragmatists as fantasy. But not to Dr. Alara Voss. She had spent her life chasing it. Born on Europa Station to two engineers, she grew up surrounded by the hum of reactors and the glow of holographic schematics. By 16, she had rewritten the standard model of temper mechanics. By 40, she led Project Kronos, a classified initiative hidden beneath Titan's icy crust. For decades, the project had teetered between breakthroughs and dead ends. Theoretical models suggested that time could be bent, not broken, that causality might survive if travelers remained observers rather than participants. But theory meant little without proof. That changed on the morning of October 12th, when the team activated the chronocore for the first full-scale test. The machine stood at the heart of the facility, a towering ring of superconductive alloys suspended in a vacuum chamber lined with quantum stabilizers. At its center, a shimmering field flickered into existence, warping light like heat rising from asphalt. The air vibrated with energy. Every scientist held their breath as a single particle was injected into the field. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1. A blink, a ripple, and then data streamed in. The particle had returned 0.001 seconds into the past, carrying timestamp telemetry. It had traveled. Gasps filled the control room. Some stared at the screens in stunned silence. Others erupted into cheers. Dr. Voss stood motionless, eyes locked on the readouts, as if afraid to believe. Then, slowly she smiled. Not a wide grin, but a quiet, knowing one, the kind that comes after a lifetime of searching finally ends. They had done it. Humanity had pierced the veil of time. Within hours, encrypted reports were sent to the highest levels of government. Within days, whispers spread through scientific circles. Within weeks, the truth could no longer be contained. The news broke across every colony, every station, every world. Humans had discovered time travel. Across the galaxy, reactions varied. Some celebrated with parades and fireworks, declaring a new era of enlightenment. Others feared what this meant. Who would control it? Could it be weaponized? Would history itself become unstable? But in that moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was that for the first time in history, humanity had reached beyond space and touched eternity. They were no longer bound by the arrow of time. They were no longer prisoners of fate. They were explorers of the fourth dimension. And the future, no matter how far ahead or far behind, was now within their grasp. The news spread faster than light, carried on quantum relays and neural link networks. Within hours of the announcement, every major colony, orbital station, and planetary government had erupted into debate. Scientists celebrated with feverish excitement, publishing papers before they even finished writing them. Politicians scrambled to control the narrative and the technology. Military leaders held closed-door meetings, weighing the implications of a weapon that could strike not just an enemy's present, but their past. Across Earth, Mars, Titan, and beyond, humanity stood at the edge of something vast and terrifying. The power to change time was no longer theoretical. It was real, and now everyone wanted a say in how it would be used. In the bustling megacities of Europa Prime, crowds gathered outside research centers, waving signs that read time for peace and rewrite the future. Protesters shouted both in favor and against the discovery, some calling for unrestricted access, others warning of catastrophic consequences. In the deep space mining colonies, workers speculated about whether they could undo industrial accidents or lost loved ones. On diplomatic vessels orbiting alien worlds, ambassadors rushed to reassure nervous extraterrestrial allies that humanity wouldn't use this power recklessly. But not all reactions were public. In shadowed boardrooms and classified military bunkers, decisions were being made behind closed doors. Corporations saw profit in temporal logistics, deliveries arriving before they were sent, stock markets manipulated with perfect foresight. Intelligence agencies whispered about sending operatives into the past to neutralize threats before they arose. Some governments quietly began recruiting physicists and engineers, racing to develop their own time travel capabilities before rivals could seize the advantage. And then came the warnings. Leading scientists issued urgent calls for regulation. Paradoxes, they cautioned, could unravel reality itself. A single careless act, stepping on a butterfly, speaking to the wrong person, might ripple outward, altering history in unpredictable ways. Ethicists demanded oversight, fearing that time travel would become a tool of oppression rather than progress. Religious leaders decried it as hubris, the ultimate defiance of natural law. Despite the chaos, one faction moved faster than the rest: the rogue technologists. Operating from hidden labs on abandoned moons and drifting asteroid stations, they bypassed laws and ethics alike. Their message was simple: time belonged to all, not just the powerful. Within weeks, reports surfaced of unauthorized jumps, brief, crude, but undeniable. One group claimed to have sent a message to their younger selves, subtly nudging their past decisions. Another boasted of retrieving historical artifacts from centuries past. The timeline was no longer sacred. Governments responded swiftly, forming the first iteration of what would become the Temporal Accord, a global and eventually interstellar treaty designed to regulate time travel. Oversight committees were established. Enforcement units were trained. The first temporal warden divisions were formed, not soldiers, but guardians of causality itself. Yet despite the efforts to contain it, the truth remained. Pandora's box was open. Time travel was no longer a secret. It was a force reshaping civilization, one decision at a time. The first human jump was not a spectacle. No grand ceremony, no cheering crowds, just a silent chamber beneath Europa Station, where the chrono core pulsed with restrained power. The team stood ready. Dr. Alara Voss, lead physicist and architect of time travel, Lieutenant Arjun Malik, an elite temporal response operative, and Commander Sarah Lynn, a former deep space navigator trained in historical non-interference protocols. They were not heroes. They were test subjects. The destination was precise: Earth 2084, a pivotal year, just months before the global energy collapse that nearly ended humanity's expansion into space. Their mission: observe, record, return. Under strict orders to avoid contact, they would witness history without altering it. Or so they believed. The countdown began. Chrono Core hummed to life, its ring glowing brighter with each passing second. The air vibrated, charged with unseen forces. Then, in an instant, the world around them collapsed into light. A blink. Then gravity returned. They stood in a field outside what used to be Berlin. The year was 2084. The sky was overcast, the air thick with the scent of rain-soaked earth. Towering wind turbines lined the horizon, their slow rotations casting long shadows across the land. In the distance, the skyline of a city still intact shimmered under storm clouds. They moved carefully, cloaked in temporal dampeners to prevent detection. Their suits absorbed sound. Their boots left no footprints. They recorded everything: the architecture, the clothing, the language spoken by passers-by. They were ghosts, watching a world unaware of its future. But then, a mistake. A child, no older than 6, saw them. He pointed, eyes wide with curiosity. For a fraction of a second, Dr. Voss hesitated. She raised a hand, not in greeting, but in instinctive reassurance. It was enough. They pulled back, vanishing into the folds of time. Back at base, reality shifted. A monument once standing on Mars was gone. A key figure in post-collapse diplomacy had never been born. Something had changed. Panicked analysis followed. Had the child's memory altered something? Did their presence ripple outward despite precautions? Was time fixed or fluid? Theories clashed. Data conflicted. Some argued the change was minimal. Others feared the beginning of an unraveling. Dr. Voss made a decision. Another jump. Same time, same place. But this time they would do nothing. Watch only. Leave no trace. They arrived again in 2084, but this time they stayed hidden. The child passed by unaware. No glances, no gestures. They remained unseen. They returned to their present. The monument was restored. The diplomat existed once more. Time had corrected itself. Humanity now knew. Time travel worked, but only if wielded with precision, discipline, and restraint. And with that knowledge came both fear and awe. They were no longer just travelers in space. They were gods of time. Years passed, and time travel became more than a discovery. It became doctrine. The temporal accord expanded from a human initiative into an interstellar agreement, signed by dozens of alien civilizations who had long feared what humanity might do with such power. Some species had dabbled in time manipulation before, only to abandon it after catastrophic failures. Now, they watched humanity with wary eyes, waiting to see if history would repeat itself. It did not. Humanity proved cautious, disciplined, and above all, wise. Where others had fallen to temptation, humans held back. The temporal warden divisions grew into an elite force, not soldiers, but custodians of causality. Their mission was singular: preserve the integrity of the timeline at all costs. Unauthorized jumps were met with immediate intervention. Rogue actors were hunted not out of vengeance, but necessity. Time travel was never used as a weapon. Not once. Instead, it became a tool for understanding. Historians traveled not to change the past, but to witness it firsthand. Archaeologists observed ancient civilizations in real time, filling gaps in knowledge that centuries of research had failed to uncover. Scientists studied the birth of stars, the formation of planets, even the earliest moments of the universe itself. The Chronocore and its successors opened doors that no telescope or probe could ever reach. Wars began to vanish, not because diplomacy improved, but because no one dared risk erasure. No empire, no faction, no rogue state wanted to be the first to use time against its enemies, knowing full well that retaliation could come from any point in history. Peace wasn't forced by politics, it was enforced by physics. Alien species that once saw humans as reckless newcomers now regarded them with something close to reverence. Some sent envoys to study human temporal ethics. Others requested limited access to the technology under strict supervision. Humanity, once the youngest among the stars, had become the galaxy's guardian of time. Dr. Alara Voss lived to see it all unfold. She retired from active research, but remained a guiding voice in the field, writing extensively on the philosophy of time and the responsibility that came with mastery over it. Her memoir, Chronos Among Us, became required reading across colonies and starships alike. In her final years, she often spoke of how humanity had changed, not just technologically, but spiritually. They had been given godlike power and had chosen restraint. In the quiet corners of the galaxy, where children played beneath statues of the first time travelers, the future stretched wide and unbroken. Parents told their sons and daughters that anything was possible, that humanity had already bent time to its will. And if time could be mastered, then so too could any challenge, any limit, any fear. The stars had once been the final frontier. Now, time was theirs to explore. And the future, no matter how far ahead, was no longer out of reach.